Right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good morning and good evening to those in other time zones. My name is Matt Dorr, and today our session is about ScriptRunner Connect, the product from the ScriptRunner family at Adaptivist, and what you can do with it. We have two wonderful presenters. We have Bobby Bailey, coming from deepest, darkest Oxfordshire at the moment, and Daniel Duffield from Texas. Daniel is with Tempo and Bobby is with ScriptRunner itself. Welcome, everybody. We'll give it a couple more minutes as I see the numbers are going up. People are just coming in. Right, that looks like a stable number. Let's go ahead and get started, and everyone else will fill in the chat, see where people are from, and let's go. So, get us engaged, get us started off. We want to know if you are using ScriptRunner in your organization. Simple poll, yes, not, thinking about it. Let's give you a moment on this. This is really one of those checking you can find the right buttons in Zoom polls. Oh, okay. So we've got a reasonable, good number of people who are actively using it, people who are no, and considering it. So we'll have plenty for both in this session, I believe. All right, moving along. I'm going to end that poll. Thank you, Katie. Can I click on the share results? I guess I can. And everybody should be able to see what I was talking about there. So 7 people using it, 6 people not using it, and 4 people considering it. So the first point is more general here. In the US, how many apps do you think different organizations are using? And when I say app here, this is the different services, different tools within your organization that you end up using, not just you yourself, but across the whole of your company. How many are being used? Oh, I'm seeing some good opinions here in the votes. These are suspiciously accurate numbers from the Okta poll that was done, which is actually very interesting. If you take the URL at the bottom and have a look at the different tools that Okta find people use, because they should know it. Okay, so we've got a few optimists I'm seeing. Katie, you want to share those results as well? Thank you. 2 people think that we're using 5 or so. No, 55. Unfortunately, that's still optimistic. The answer that Okta came up with was around 105. And I personally would have voted with the last group of 205 because, yes, everybody is in every organization. We're just flooded with all these different tools that we find we need to use to do our job, which is fine, so long as we're only having to do keep the data in one of the jobs, in one of the tools. But we all have come across situations, I think, where we find that we need to use the data from one tool in a different tool. And we ran across this so frequently within Adaptivist over the years that, in fact, we built our own tool to help people do this. We've called it ScriptRunner Connect, and it's an integration platform. We make it as easy for people as possible to integrate their different tools, their different apps, but to do it in a flexible and precise kind of way with coding. This is code forward, but we have the templates as well. Let me take us to the next slide. This is the fun one. Here we are with an example set of apps. We've got all the Atlassian apps, the popular apps. Some of the Atlassian apps should be popular as well. We've got custom apps. You all know best what's in your organizations. And it starts so simply enough with the different apps talking to each other. Maybe there's some custom integrations. Maybe the app provider, Atlassian, is providing some integrations with different tools. But then it gets more complicated. You've got requests from your users to integrate everything else to their favorite apps and the things that they've just installed quietly with a bit of shadow IT recently. You didn't even know they were using that app. And eventually, it gets to this sort of craziness where you can spend an awful lot of time just trying to maintain those integrations and those migrations between the different apps. It's a huge effort.
So just to add there, Matt, this is a lot of what we see, especially with people who exist in the Atlassian ecosystem. There's a very commonly you see a lot of tools and especially apps in the marketplace that give you the ability to connect two tools together. But as we saw with that poll, with over 100, on average, over 100 apps, that's 50 right there in terms of just continued apps that need to be added in and installed into your software ecosystem to create connections between your different tool sets. And it can obviously expand beyond then. And not only that, but then you've got 50 apps you need to maintain and manage, and if something breaks and support. So it gets to be quite complex and quite a lot of work just to keep your integrations up and running.
Right. Thank you, Bobby. Yes, that's the problem. It's the scale. If you just have 3 or 4, then somebody can handle this, or a small team can handle it. Once you get to be a larger organization with this number of apps, it's madness to try and even do point to point. All these different teams that are using all these different apps. And the idea, the solution that we're proposing and that we found to be successful is to use a single platform. ScriptRunner Connect, that's the logo in there, has different connectors to many of these different apps and ways to use custom connectors as well, so that they can all be maintained in one sensible place with a proper tool management approach. This gives you the ability to have consistency between your different apps, and you can manage the way that the data flows between the different apps in an automated way. And migration, even when you're doing the big one-off migrations from one particular app to another, one that's been deprecated, and you move it to the new one. So ScriptRunner Connect will do that for you. And then finally, if you can actually give people more confidence across the organization that they're going to be able to share data between their different tools, their different apps, then the teams are going to be able to be more aligned. You'll have less of this feeling of, oh, I would love to see that information, but it's in some other team's app and I don't have a license for it.
Just also, sorry, just to add again to that.
No, chime in.
That's fine. So with that is one of the main things about that diagram is that all of your integrations are in one single location. So when it comes to maintaining, managing, and having an overarching view of all of what's going on in terms of communications between the tools in your software ecosystem, then you only have to go to one place to manage it. Not only do you have one place to manage it, but because you have a single source, you can start to build more expansive integrations rather than just saying, I want to connect tool A to tool B. You have a central source where you can do that, but then also start to expand it to say, and once I communicate with tool B, then add in C, D, and E and start really creating these cross-platform integrations that ensure that your business really gets the most out of all of the tools and the data that it has available to it.
Thank you. And that's what gives me the kind of comfort when I'm imagining having to maintain all of these different integrations, that I've got somewhere with assistance, with proper documentation about how to make them work when things change, as they inevitably do. And that I've got a decent environment to do it in as a toolsmith, as a person responsible for them. All right. Now, this slide, we've got a lot of details on it. I would call it busy, but I didn't design it, so I'm not allowed to be rude about it. But you can see on here, Bobby, are you going to chip in here? You want to tell me about this slide?
I can give you, so this is basically, this slide is designed to give you, there is a lot here. That's probably because there's a lot with ScriptRunner Connect and the things that you can do.
Fair enough.
So this is designed to give you an overarching view of ScriptRunner Connect in a single image. So on the left-hand side, we have Connect as being the central tool that can connect all of the different applications together, whether those be ones that we've got managed support for. So you can see a number of logos there, which doesn't even cover all of them. Or the bespoke custom ones, which is a powerful feature on ScriptRunner Connect, which allows you to create connections and integrations between essentially anything. With that, we have a number of features that we are using to make the integration as easy as possible, whilst retaining the level of freedom and flexibility you get with writing code, such as managed APIs and connectors, event listeners, both managed and custom, and even an AI assistant in terms of actually helping you write and get that code up and running. All of this is built on top of our infrastructure, which is, as you can see, ISO SOC 2 compliant. We have all of this information available as well. As people probably know, we're ScriptRunner. We're quite familiar with running scripts on infrastructure, especially when it comes to cloud. So we're the experts in this, and we've taken those learnings and we're applying them to ScriptRunner Connect as well. And all of this comes together to define your central hub, which you can then use to solve use cases. Obviously, the most common and the easiest one to immediately think of is in automation and synchronizations, cross-platform, having the tools and data move around when and where they need to. But there are other solutions like migration, which is what we're going to be looking at today, which more unique, more cases that maybe you don't immediately think of when it comes to an integration platform, but with the flexibility that we provide, you can actually achieve as well. And obviously integration, cross-platform integration and automation, these are all solutions that are valid to essentially any industry, but there is some you can see there. And with all of this resulting in an outcome that improves your data alignment, your team alignment as a byproduct of improving your data alignment and better efficiency, increased efficiency, and decreasing the costs it takes for you to keep your tools communicating with each other.
Wow, thank you. That was a thorough listing. I think the thing that sticks out to me is that I've tried to do these myself, and I don't ever want to have to do it without the support of some other really sensible platform. This is the platform that came because Adaptivist was helping so many customers do similar things, and this is what helped us. So in a nutshell, we are code first on this ScriptRunner Connect integration platform. We're using TypeScript, JavaScript. We've also providing an assisted coding environment, so there's a decent editor, all the other kinds of things that you'd expect from any sensible IDE. The collaboration is key. The fact that it's not just you going in there to maintain the integration. You're going to be doing that with a team. And you're doing it all from a central hub, from the central place to do this. And then the fact that we've thought about the security and reliability issues beforehand and made sure that we comply with what people expect these days. So with that, let me pass this over to Daniel to introduce Tempo to us.
Yeah, and so we'll get into a lot of these in a lot more depth in just a little bit. But the reason we want to bring this slide to mention is because with Tempo itself, there's a lot of interconnectedness within our own solutions. So when we start out with the road mapping software there with strategic roadmaps, we can see that direct connector to structure, but structure has a lot of connections going out from that. So this is just to indicate that structure does connect with pretty much everything that we have, and it is used as kind of the central hub for everything that we do within the Atlassian ecosystem. That's going to connect directly to Capacity Planner, Financial Manager, custom charts, and timesheets itself to bring all that data to bear in one single screen. But all of that is also connected. So we can see Capacity Planner itself connecting also to Financial Manager and timesheets, BI connectors, custom charts, everything like that. So we're bringing the whole picture together into one view that you can use. But there's a lot of modularity for all of this. So if you don't want the full solution, you can plug in the pieces that you want to get the effect that you want. That's that slide in a nutshell. If you want to go ahead and advance that, Matt. And the big key things from that is it's modular, flexible, and scalable. So with these solutions, you don't have to have every part of it to get, again, every part that you get out of it. You only get the parts that you need, plug those in, and have the views that you want precisely as you want, and in a way that's scalable with the organization that you have. And with that, Matt, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you. Okay, I think this is time for a demo from you, Daniel, if you're
I
able
guess
to
that's
share your
true, yeah.
screen. Okay, I'm bouncing it back to you. All right, I'm going to, let's see if your share will take over mine.
And I do believe it has.
Good.
So with this is our strategic roadmaps module. This one sits outside the Atlassian ecosystem, but we can see right away that the big key component of it is a roadmap itself. Now, this roadmap isn't just viewable in one way. It does have the standard timeline view, but you can also do it in a way that's kind of a grid format, so you can separate the X and Y axis by the components you might need within the items themselves. There is a couple of different levels to this, and this is integrated itself with a number of different things. This one itself, as indicated in the title, is integrated with Jira Cloud, but you can integrate it across multiple different platforms, and I'll show you the window here. We can integrate with ADO, GitHub, Asana, Trello, GitLab, Shortcut, Structure, which is within Jira itself, Pivotal Tracker, Monday.com, or use API tokens to integrate it with other things. The great thing about this being connected within the Atlassian ecosystem is you're directly connecting some of the strategy that you'll use here to the execution side, which is what everybody's going to be performing with on the other side. So within that, but utilizing that strategy side, the people who consume the strategy might not be the people that are creating this roadmap. So with that, we've also got a number of different ways to export this. And in this case, we've got PNG, HTML, or URL. And the beauty of the URL aspect is you're able to take that URL and it's a live look at any point that you need somebody to be able to consume that. So if you're handing this off to, let's say, an executive or something like that, and they get this URL today, that URL is also accurate 6 weeks from today if the information's been updated on the other side. So it's, again, always a live look. Some of the beauty as well is that you can utilize this to be able to combine multiple different roadmaps from multiple different sources. So in the case of the integrations, we did say that you can connect with Structure, GitLab, Pivotal Tracker, these kind of things. So if you have people working across multiple different environments, you can combine multiple roadmaps into a singular view so that you're able to see the full breadth of work across your entire organization. So moving on from there, we said it is able to connect with Structure, and that would look something like this. So if I were to take a look at all of these items with the double arrows on them, these are items that do come from strategic roadmaps. These are also connected to standard Jira issues that you'll see. So epics, tasks, subtasks, everything like that. We're able to combine those items to be able to feed that view across two strategic roadmaps. As well, within Structure, some of the other added benefits you have is things like roll-ups and calculations and computations, formulas within Structure itself. So we're able to see a summation of like tempo, log time, again, pulling in from our own other solutions. We're able to see this program health gadget. And this is one of those things that's we're able to take a lot of the data within the Structure itself, combine it with like some color coding, emojis, whatever you might want, and give us a very quick view of the way that we want to see the work as it's being performed. Now, this isn't the limit to all the fields that can be displayed within Structure, but we don't have all day, so I can't really give you all of them. But the other cool thing about this, we were able to see the timeline on, let's say, that executive view with strategic roadmaps. Now we're able to see a timeline on a Gantt view, one that's consumable by the workers within Structure itself. So we're connecting the work directly across to the work that's being accomplished. We're able to see those timelines. And because it's integrated with another solution of ours, Capacity Planner, we're able to actually view who's doing the work and what the effect of that work is on their availability. So this is all color coded, as we'll see, red, yellow, and green, stoplight pattern. So red means that person's over capacity, yellow means they have some availability left, and green means they're allocated at their availability. So that's going to pay into this next screen. It's all directly connected to Capacity Planner. So when we look at Capacity Planner, we see the same color coordination, right? Yellow, they have availability left. Green, they're at capacity. and red means they're over allocated. We can see all of this across every different person within the organization that we have access to. And if we were to dig into, let's say, this person, we can see what's actually consuming that availability. So being as I'm over allocated for many of these days, if I needed to reallocate some of the issues, I can just simply move the issues around, reallocate it to Charisse here, and now she's over allocated and I'm having a good day. We also have quick issue pickers and the ability to view all of this capacity by team. So when we look into these teams, we can see the individual allocations for each person again. And we can see the standard color scheme. It's orangey here. We have green and red, meaning the same things. Orange means they have availability left. Green means they're approximately at capacity, and red means they're over allocated. And we can see that on the team level. So again, a lot of visibility that's going to help us all the way around. But the other part to point out here is, again, we have certain items that are allocated to me. So once I see these items that are allocated to me, I can say, well, what's the effect on me as a person? Let's say I'm not the person that's managing the schedule, but I'm the individual worker. Well, all of this that's put on my capacity plan comes across to my timesheet as well. So I can see the same time 15 on my timesheet. That's easily ratifiable if I want to just click this to log the time. So this is actually making it easier for me as the worker to connect my work to the actual plan it's been given. As well, though, we have another asset for this that is the integration with standard calendars like your Google Calendar or your Office 365 calendar. As long as it's connected to a Jira issue, we can bring that work in. As well, any of this work, if we look at it, can be allocated to an account. And so with these accounts, they can be capital, operational, anything like that. So we can build this time to where it needs to be built, for the betterment of our organization. Where that's going to play into effect, though, is within Financial Manager. So within Financial Manager, we can have a number of different plans, projects that we can plan our money against. And because we already have the hourly data in the future coming from Capacity Planner, as well as the data from the past or the present coming from timesheets, now we can plot this on a graph that looks very similar to what the work we've actually consumed. What we've done is take that time, apply it to the cost rates for each individual, and plot it on a graph to get, given the time. We can also, because we use those accounts, separate things into CapEx versus OpEx. We can look at the costs. How much of the costs are we using according to the budget that we currently have? What's the scope of this? And then we can break it down by whatever we want. So when we go into the scope itself, we can see what the individual issues have cost us based on the time that's been placed in. So Android 32 here, we spent 13 hours on it. It's cost $885 based on the workers that have worked on it. Same thing for the Capacity Planner side. We project that we'll need 104 more hours, so it will cost us $5,200. Again, getting logical, actual data from the timesheet and from the timesheet entries we put in, as well as the plan for the future. Now, this is great. We've got all this data. Where do we consume it all in one way of seeing it? In that case, we would go to the actual dashboards themselves. So within the dashboards, we have another module called Custom Charts. This is another part of the solution that allows you to revisualize any of the information in any way that you want it. It does work on the standard Jira dashboards, and with those Jira dashboards, we're able to kind of enhance them. So we have certain calculations that can be performed within the dashboard itself. We can view it in any way that we want. And again, a little bit prettier colors, a little bit brighter, more visually appealing to anybody who might see it. As well, I don't know if this will appeal to anybody, it does to me personally, but there's a dark mode for each of the modules. So for those of us that have a little bit of eye strain over the course of the day, this may help. But we can see some of the views that we're able to get out of that. Now, you might use this all the way across the board, but you need a place to condense all your information, not only from these solutions, but from other solutions as well. To consume this, we also have BI connectors, and within the Power BI connector itself, we have a number of different modules that you can use to have, or templates that you can use to more easily pull that data across. And those are prepackaged within it. As well, just for demonstration purposes, some of the data relationships that we have within this are very powerful and can grasp a lot of the information, bring it together for whatever view that you might need. In this case, we have Jira, JSM, and some of our tempo stuff over here. But for the sake of time, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me find our screen. Oops. Lost my share. Here we are.
So I think this is me now.
It
So-
is indeed. I'm sorry, Bobby.
No.
I'm rather going
That's
on here.
okay. I'll take over the share. Give me 2 seconds.
Great.
Just make sure. I've got-
Okay, you got that? I'll go back to where we were. Yes, great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So how do these tools come together? We've presented 2 tools. What's the connection? So we have with ScriptRunner Connect, as I mentioned before, we can solve not just automation and synchronization of data, but we can also solve migration of data. And that is one of the challenges we've solved with ScriptRunner Connect. So you can see here we have a Atlassian marketplace listing for migration of Tempo worklogs from one cloud instance to another. So this is a template in ScriptRunner Connect. So there's no need to write a single line of code to get this up and running. And we'll see this in a second as I actually run through it. And that you can use to quickly and easily migrate your worklogs. And it's already borne fruit for some people. So we actually had a customer use it last week who left this review on the marketplace. So you can go and check to see that we're not making this up. Where they were able to move 40 to 50,000 worklogs from one cloud instance to another using this template in a process that was quite smooth, quite straightforward, and very easy to get going. So let's actually see it working. So just to familiarize yourself with my screens, I have here, we have ScriptRunner Connect. And then here we have 2 Jira Cloud instances. On the left-hand side with the orange header is our source. Right-hand side, green header is our target. You can see
Bobby, I just got to stop you there. Just tell me, these are live instances, right? This is a live demo.
This is a live demo, yeah.
Okay, my respect for you has gone up several steps. Let's go.
well, let's save that for when it works. Okay, so so looking at these instances, so if I look at the 760 on both sides, we can see that there is tempo data on our source instance, but there is none currently in our live instance, in our target instance. So when we want to migrate, the first thing we need to do, and the first thing you need to do when you create any integration with ScriptRunner Connect, is to create connections to the tools. So from ScriptRunner's Connect screen, I just go to the connectors screen, and you can see I've got loads of different connections here. There's a lot you can do. I'm not going to go into that detail, but I'm going to create 2 connectors. The first is a Jira Cloud connector. So select Jira Cloud, Tempo, Migration. We'll go Source Jira and select Authorize. When you select Authorize, this is what's is a managed connector. We have a number of tools that we support managed connector for, both Tempo and Jira. When you select that Authorize button, it takes you through a process to connect to that product. For here, I don't need to do any of these 2 optional steps. I can then click Authorize, which will take me through to Atlassian's API site, where I confirm the URL that I want to actually connect to, which is, let's find it, this one. Click Accept. This then goes back to ScriptRunner Connect, where I reconfirm that URL. This one, confirm, save. That's it. I'm now connected to Jira Cloud. Again, we can go through that same process, which I'm going to show you in a second for Tempo, but for now, I want to show you that from inside the setup workflow we have. So once you've created the connections to your tools, or you're ready to get started setting up your integration, you have a couple of options. You can go to workspaces and generate your own, writing code, again, using our managed APIs, etc. But we're going to be using a template. Templates are pre-existing workspaces that are built and ready to go. So what I can do is go and select the migration filter. And here I can see that I have migrate tempo timesheets. So I select this. This will take you through to a view where you can get an overview of this particular workspace, what it's doing and how it's functioning. Every template will have a README that tells you what the workspace is and how to get it up and running. And you can also see all of the elements we have down here. So just to show, we have the API connections to the Jira Cloud, and also the tempo on both target and source, and the scripts that are going to be executing manually. Once you're happy with this template, you can just click to create a workspace, and then you can give it its own name and description, and then you have two options. Advanced view, again, will take you through to the code editor, with all of the functionality of ScriptRunner Connect in case you want to make modifications to the scripts. But with this one in particular, if you don't want to, you don't have to, you can use the setup guide, which gives you a more structured workflow where you don't actually have to look at or write a line of code. So what you can do is once you click create, this will then generate that workspace for you and then begin the setup workflow. So the first step is to set up any connectors. As before, we have the README here. READMEs are important. I'm not going to read it now, but because I know this template, but READMEs are important to read before you actually get started, because there are some that require unique steps to take place whilst you're doing this setup. But for this particular one, we don't need to worry too much about that. Just define the connectors. So here I can use my existing ones. So existing, we now have Jira tempo migration, the source, and tempo migration target. So, with the tempo connector, again, we can just select target. I don't have the source, so let's go and create that. So this is just to show you the process I went through with the Jira Cloud connector creation. You can do from this screen as well. This will allow me to create a tempo connector. So tempo migration source tempo, and then authorize. And now we begin a unique process for tempo itself. So I need to get the URL. And let's get that really quick. Next, and then I need to open up the tempo settings and copy these elements to create a new connector. So this takes you through to the tempo side of application. So as Danny mentioned, some people do prefer dark mode. I am one of them. I don't like bright screens too much. So copying these elements over into the form as the instructions say, and then I get these elements and go next and paste them into ScriptRunner Connect. Authorize. This then takes me through just to reconfirm that I'm happy to authorize access, which I am. So let's do that. And we are now done. So that's all the connectors set up. So continuing to the API connections, which just gives you an overview of what you've just done, just to confirm. And then we're going to continue to triggers. Now, this particular template doesn't have any triggers because it's not an automatic process. It's a press a button to do something, but there is one event listener. This event listener is designed to give you a report in terms of monitoring your migration. So what I need to do is continue to the webhook, copy this URL, mark as complete, and then I can go and enter this URL in somewhere later. This is going to give you a message to say it's not been processed just yet. This is because we haven't finished the setup guide. Continue through to parameters, and this is where you're probably going to spend most of your time. This gives you the ability to define how your migration is going to function, again, without having to write code, so just doing the configuration. So again, most templates will have this availability. So you can say, I want this particular template to function in this way, defined by the parameter, as opposed to having to write that code. So for me, my JQL project is, tempo web. And I'm also going to add a default user, default account ID. So this particular parameter is just in case, it's not necessarily the case for mine, but just in case someone had created a work log on the source instance and then left and is not on our target instance. Now we've created it. This gives a default user to assign that work log to, just so that the data is then transmitted across. I'm not going to mess around with the rest because I don't want to make anything too complicated. You also have a section here for generating test data. I'm not going to do that right now because I've already done it, but this is what I use to generate all the data that you just saw on those two instances. This will go and create a number of issues in both instances that are linked up in terms of IDs. but only create tempo worklogs on a source. So this is available for you to go, if you wanted to test a migration before actually going ahead with it, you can go and create a dummy project on both your instances, run this script with the generate test data to generate those issues and perform test migrations before you actually go and do the real thing. Continue to scripts. This gives you the ability to look at the code if you wanted to review and see what the code exactly is doing. I'm clicking in it not to necessarily go into detail about the script itself, but just to highlight one of the main features of ScriptRunner Connect, which is the managed API. So you can see here, for example, Jira Cloud issue.getIssue. So for anyone who's written code for an API, you'll know you need to handle the authentication. You need to store that somewhere. You need to know what the API requires, the structure, and then what comes back. With the managed API, this is all handled. So you can see here, this is a fully valid API call. The Jira Cloud target is our connector. This is handling the authentication for us. And then issue/.getIssue, these are subfunctions that will come up in autocomplete when you're typing in the editor to get an issue rather than having to memorize the URL for that particular endpoint. And then the structure here is handled automatically. So you can use autocomplete to get the structure to make that API call as easy as possible. Continue to review, which gives you the whole setup guide listed out just so you can double check everything you've done. And click continue to run. Now this says this will activate your integration. It's important to note there's a distinction between activating the integration and doing the migration at this point. What this is going to do is activate any triggers. So the main difference this is going to make is that when I now go to this URL again, we are going to see instead now it's saying no migration status found. You've probably not started yet, which we haven't, so it's right. Let's start that migration. So now is the big moment. So just to again say, if you wanted to generate dummy issues, you'd run this script. I've done that already. Let's actually run and see what happens. Migrate the work logs. So this is now executing, and you can view the logs to see the migration status and see what it's doing and how it's functioning. But this log file only has a limit of 1,000 lines. So again, referring to the customer from last week, when they had 50,000, they got to the end of their log file and they couldn't monitor anymore. So whilst you could watch this for the beginning, the advice and what you should be doing is refreshing this particular URL to monitor that progress. It will not update immediately. It waits for the first batch to be done, which we can see has just happened. So now if I refresh, we'll start to see, once it figures it out, the report. And this generates a report to give you information on how your migration is going. So we can see that it's still in progress, ongoing information about the status, how it's running, etc., and all the things that are going on in terms of the report, in terms of how many migrated work logs. So again, if I refresh, we'll see it's continuing to process. So we'll see another batch come through soon as it works through all of the issues in my particular workspace. Now, I'm not going to sit here and make you wait for the entire migration to finish. Let's go and see if we can find an issue that has been processed. So I'm going to go back. Let's sort by this. So it should be running from, it should be running from the earliest issues. So let's look at Tempo Web 6, which has 2, and then if I go over to Tempo Web 6 in the target instance, it hasn't got there yet. So this is going to be the challenge I didn't anticipate, which is that because I wanted to migrate a lot of data to show you exactly how it looks when you're processing. However, I didn't consider the fact I wouldn't know which issues have been processed and which hadn't. Seeing if I can find. So I'm going to see if it goes down the other way. If it is going from the latest one first. It is. Okay, that's fine. So it's not going from the earliest one, it's going from the latest one. So you can see here the tempo 5 items have been migrated over. And again, if I go, I can't remember which one I showed at the beginning. I think it was 760, right? So if I go to 760, we've got those 2 timesheets where they weren't before on the target instance. Now they're there, fully migrated over. Easy and straightforward to do. If I can do it in 20 minutes or 15 minutes, then anyone can do it. Obviously, you'll probably spend a little bit more time on the parameters as everyone's migration is unique, everyone's is different. So I wouldn't presume to say that yours will be as quick as easy as this in terms of setting up, but straightforward and simple in terms of what you can do.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That was a fast run through, and it worked. Double congratulations.
The only so
I,
the only
yeah.
thing to add, sorry, one last thing to add is when it comes to like, so there has been some errors, and obviously any errors will be logged in the log file so you can see. When it comes to migrating test data, you are able to use the free plan. There is a free forever plan with ScriptRunner Connect, so you can create use the script to create some test issues and run that migration to make sure it's okay. But when it comes to actual migration, you will then need to move over to a paid plan because there are limits on script executions, which you will run into when you're migrating any sizable amount of data. This is something that we ran into again with that customer last week. And there are also other elements in play like rate limits and things that you don't want impacting your migration. So when it comes to doing that, make sure to review that. And there's a lot of information out there how that works and how you can get that set up.
You touched on an important part there, which is that the pricing is publicly available as well when you're going from the free plan to the paid plan, and that it's not a huge amount. I'm always astonished by the pricing of ScriptRunner Connect at the moment. So get in there early would be my advice. What else do you want to tell us about this migration? You've obviously done this before in practice. What were the parts that were difficult for you when you first came to ScriptRunner Connect?
For that migration, there isn't much. Obviously, the main complication from that is the parameters being able to understand and read. But all of them have descriptions on what they do and then defined, so it's pretty straightforward. In terms of generally using ScriptRunner Connect, the APIs are always complicated, and especially when we first started with ScriptRunner Connect. But since the more features and functionality we've added, the easier things have been getting. So to the point where I'm able to build full proof of concepts for like completely unique ServiceNow to Jira syncs that do really unique things in about 2 hours for customers, especially with the AI assistant and the managed API. AI is anyone who writes code and says that AI isn't making a massive difference to their life is either not trying it or not being honest. So, and having an AI bot in ScriptRunner Connect has made such a massive difference in terms of what I could do in a day before I can do in an hour, 30 minutes now. So it's definitely, and all of the features and functionality we've got in just makes life that much easier to build things.
Right. So I'm kind of old school. I'm also very impressed by the documentation around ScriptRunner Connect. When you dig into it on the website, it feels like a product that people have taken time to explain to everyone what's going on, plus all the videos and sessions like this. So yeah, I think it is a new kind of ability that's provided from all these assistants, is the AI bot, as you say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a very powerful tool. And just to go back to that tempo migration, just to give you this overview again, you can find a link to the particular template in the marketplace, or you can come straight to ScriptRunner Connect and find it. But you can see here just an overview: create the connections, set up the listener, which gives you that report, and then start migrating your data over with multiple configuration options. And that's not the only tempo migration log you saw when I went to that the migration option that we have there, and you can see here the pricing and structure and where you can get started with ScriptRunner Connect as well. So all of this information, and I'm pretty sure we're sending these slides out afterwards as well. So all of this information is readily available for you to access and get through.
Thank you. Okay, thank you to both of you for the presentations and the large amount of information we've already talked about. We have QR codes for the presenters here. As Bobby said, the slides are going to be given out after the presentation ends to everyone. But this is the chance for everybody out there in the audience to raise your questions in the Q&A tab. I see we've got a couple coming in already. Yes, there's one. I'm going to answer the last question first. So is this Happy compatible? For those, tell us what Happy is, Bobby.
So
and is it compatible?
Sure. So happy is it's basically a buffer between the users and the API they're working with when they're using the ScriptRunner products that are on Atlassian tools. So for example, ScriptRunner for Jira, being able to create an issue without having to do a full API call, whether that be data center and that's the Java API, or on cloud that's the Jira REST API. So the important thing, so there's a little bit of information to span out this answer. ScriptRunner Connect is not doesn't use Groovy. It doesn't script in Groovy. It uses TypeScript and JavaScript. These are much more widely available languages, much more widely known languages. There's a lot of resources out there, and it just made sense to go with that language. So is it happy compatible? No is the answer, but that's because the managed API is its own beast in terms of making API calls simple. The best way to describe the managed API is it is happy for REST APIs. And we have it for Jira. So you'll probably find a lot of similarities between Jira Cloud's new Happy, which they released last month, and the managed API for Jira in ScriptRunner Connect. But ScriptRunner Connect is not, as much as we've got an Atlassian focus, it's not uniquely Atlassian. So we've got managed APIs for Slack, Microsoft, Teams, Microsoft Teams, we've got Monday, so it's much more wider scope than Happy currently is.
Great, thank you for that. So we have another question from somebody who really wants to know just how much are they going to be able to connect with ScriptRunner Connect? Hold on.
Cool,
Written
yeah.
in very small letters here.
I can read out if you like.
Yes, sure, if you're able to see it.
Yeah, more interested in how you could use ScriptRunner Connect with various data sources. So we've got Redshift, Databricks, SAP, Google Sheets, SharePoint, or Jira. Want to pull data from these sources and create tickets. We would also like to pull data sources into assets. Can Connect help with this as well? And last question is, would we be able to train non-developers to manage these connects or set up new connections, or are they rather code heavy? So to answer the first question, absolutely. So a number of those tools, so I'm looking at primarily Google Sheets really, we have a managed connector for, but for any tool we don't have a managed connector for, you can connect to using our generic connector. As long as it has a REST API and you can connect via OAuth. OAuth 2.0, basic authentication or token headers, then you can connect to it. And those are some of the most common authentication methods. The honest answer is, whenever someone says to me, can I connect to something using ScriptRunner Connect? I don't always know, because I'm not, as much as I'd like to be, I'm not an expert in every product in the world. So for example, what I would do is, for example, Redshift REST API. Always just do Google. So, oh, that's Amazon. Okay, I didn't even know that. But we actually have an AWS connector. But you can go and see that it has an API and then check the authentication method to make sure that it's valid for what you can do. And then most tools will have that as an option. So yes, you can definitely connect and extract data from those sources. You can also listen to events in those sources, as long as they have something that allows you to send data to a URL, whether that be the ability to write scripts or a webhook, etc. You can also listen to events of those sources with our custom event listener. Can you do assets? Yeah, we've got a managed API for JSM assets, so you can do exactly the same for assets. You can go and extract data from any of these sources, making a connection with the generic connector, and then import those into your JSM assets as with the managed API. Can you train non-developers to manage these connections? So yes, you can. So what you would do is you would define the people who are developers and the people who do write the code would need to build the workspace in that way. So for example, what we've just seen with that Tempo workspace, rather than just build the unique migration case that we've had in mind, we've added a load of parameters which can be referenced in the code to control how things are perform. So for example, where I change that JQL query, what that then does in the code is it references that variable to make that JQL query. So your developers can build your solution with parameters in the code to handle the inputs that the non-technical users will need to modify and change to manage it, so they can build solutions that are managed and maintained by people who don't want to write code or can't write code.
Thank you. Now we have another permission. I think, Valentino, if you're ready to ask, you can ask your question. Coming off mute.
If they want to, of course. If they don't, they're more than happy to pop in the chat.
Yes, the Q&A as well. Well, while we're waiting there for other people, I have a question, which is that it's obviously Atlassian heavy, connecting different Atlassian products into other tools and other apps. What about just connecting a random tool out there to another random app?
Yeah. So as shown, so with ScriptRunner Connect, so let me go back and go back to ScriptRunner Connect. So if we go to my connections, you can see that I have connections to things that are obviously not managed connections. Anything with this white globe is a generic connection that I've created. So Freshdesk, Service, Airtable, HelpJuice, HubSpot, I've created integrations to all of these. Quite often it is a case of I've got this tool that we have a managed connection for and I want to connect to something that we don't. So for example, knowledge-based synchronization between Confluence and another knowledge-based tool like HelpJuice or like ServiceNow. But it is absolutely possible for you to create completely generic connections to say, I want to connect HelpJuice to HubSpot and then also to Freshservice. There's no limitation on what you do when you create a workspace. When you create a workspace and you say, these are the events I want to listen to, there's no limitation on this number. And these are the APIs I want to communicate with, there is no limitation on this number. So again, that's where when I referenced a lot of tools we connect tool A to B. What you can do here in a workspace, because you can have 10 API connections and 10 event listeners, is you can have a actual solution, like true cross-platform solution, rather than piecemeal fitting everything together with individual connectors.
Thank you. We have a question in the chat as well, asking about on-prem. For example, DC, Jira on-prem, and you've got some other app you're trying to connect on-prem. So everything's behind the corporate firewall. Can we do anything with ScriptRunner Connect in that case?
So yeah, so the short answer to the first question is yes, absolutely. If I go to help and support and I go to the product documentation, you'll find under Get Started, and here we have an entire section that walks you through how you can configure your firewall to allow connections from ScriptRunner Connect to communicate with. One thing I will be aware of is, as mentioned there, you don't want any data on a cloud. We obviously, as part of our logging feature that we give you so that you can see what's going on in your scripts, we do store data in our instance, which is AWS Ireland right now. So there is that consideration to be made. But if you are just a case of, I will need to connect to this particular tool that's behind a firewall, that is perfectly capable. We've had I've spoken and walked 2 people through this process already recently. So it's very straightforward to do.
Great, thank you very much. Let's see, do we have any other messages coming in here? That's it so far. I had a couple of thoughts that we had talked about as a team before we started the presentation. Could you talk a little bit around the security architecture for ScriptRunner Connect?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the same documentation, which you can, in here, you'll find a security section below. This gives you all the information. So I mentioned before, obviously we are SOC and ISO compliant, certified. Any information you need in terms of where your data is going to be stored, how it's stored, any security information you need is all available here in terms of what security measures we take. So, yeah, this is a very complete document that covers everything you'll ever need to know about security and what's going on with your data.
Thank you. And I've got to ask it because somebody will. Competitors, who do you see ScriptRunner Connect as competing against?
So, so it's kind of a difficult thing to say because the obvious answer, especially in the Atlassian ecosystem, for example, you've got Jira to Jira Syncs. I don't know if I'm allowed to say actual competitor like names on a call, but
you can make general suggestions.
Yeah,
what are the particular advantages of ScriptRunner Connect against the competitors that make this the tool that you would go for?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's why I said it's a bit of a difficult question. There are some add-ons out there that do, for example, Jira to Jira Sync. A lot of our competitors or people who are operating in the same space as us do what we define as point and click, which is they have a predefined set of actions that you can configure. Now that's great in terms of ease of use, and it's very simple and very straightforward to set up. But what it gives you in ease of use, it sacrifices in flexibility. Your ability to make unique changes and have the integration work, especially in the way that your business wants and needs, is compromised. So we exist in the same space, but we offer something very different. Obviously, there is a higher barrier to entry with the need to write code, but in today's day and age, that barrier is reducing every single day with things like AI, with what we developed with the managed API. So that it's almost to the point now that whilst you're technically coding, what you're actually just doing is writing in a language like English to say, I want to do this, then this, then this, then this. So as that barrier of entry for coding reduces, we take advantage of that to make it as easy to use whilst retaining the flexibility of writing code. So if someone comes up to us and says, for example, we want ServiceNow to sync with Jira, but we don't want it to do it automatically. We want to have a unique button that goes and makes that happen when we want it to happen. We can do that because we have the flexibility to put our event listener wherever we want and have the code communicate with whatever it wants and go and do whatever it wants. So you have a fully blank canvas in terms of how you want your integration to function.
Thank you. Right. I think on that note, we bring ourselves to our last poll. Katie, if you're able to start that up. I'm going to, there we are. Thank you. So how can we help you? This is not an exam question. This is just a general, what can we do for you?
Whilst people are answering that, I just saw another question in the chat, which is it a standalone add-on? So yeah, so it's not an add-on, it's standalone product. It's it's an entirely standalone cloud-based product. It's not an add-on for Jira or Confluence. It is a truly separate product. So there is no need to go and install it on Jira, etc. I think there's going to be a link put in the chat in a minute on how to go and access ScriptRunner Connect. You can just go on there and sign up today, and you'll have full access to our free tier, which is our free forever tier, which is go and play around, have a look at the app, test it out, see what you think. And then as was just posted in chat as well, please feel free to book some time with me, and I'd be happy to give you a full demo of all of the features and functionality, as well as go through your particular use case.
Great. Now, I think we can end the poll there, Katie. And we have one extra special announcement to make at the end of this. We've saved a wonderful piece of news until last. Perhaps you'd like to scroll down, Bobby. Are you able to share that video?
I don't think I shared the sound. Could you take over?
Yes, I certainly can. Here, I'm going to replace current share and do this and share. Well, thank you. Let me see if I can undo that. Yes, a whole new community. And I'm very excited to see this. I'm going to be helping moderate some of the questions and the interactions that will be coming in. The goal is not to replace Atlassian community, of course, it's to enhance. And we're very excited to see how this is going to go. If you are actually part of the existing Atlassian community, you'll probably notice that there are maybe a goodly number of questions every day about ScriptRunner and ScriptRunnery things. And we think we should be able to make our customers and everyone else happier by having our own community and working there. Okay, I think that wraps us up neatly then.
I'm just gonna,
Unless there was
sorry,
anything
I'm
else.
just gonna steal
Go
in
ahead.
there's one last question just at the end there. Is Google
Oh,
Drive
do it.
next, on the roadmap? The short answer is no, but not that, no, but not because it's like so far in the future, but because we're being really agile with in terms of what connector we're adding at what given point in time. So having feedback like that, like, hey, I want to connect to Google Drive, and especially the apps that were listed earlier as well, is really useful for us because we're always looking to see what people want to connect to and communicate with. So if you have that feedback, we'll take what you've put in the question, and we'll make announcements on the next connectors we're making. But yeah, so please feedback on connectors and tools you want to communicate with, because it makes our life easier in terms of making your life easier.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending, and for everybody who's helped present this. And we'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.